Several years after her initial debut, when she appeared at the end of the Rumble that Asuka won, Rousey returned once again to WWE. This is her first time back since WrestleMania 35, where she lost the Raw Women's title to Becky Lynch. Rousey's return was at the Rumble, and she made short work of those remaining in the women's match, tossing them over the top rope to win. Just like that, her main event of WrestleMania 38 was set. She decided to face Charlotte, not Becky. This took everyone by surprise, as the story was there with Lynch and Rousey exchanging a lot of words. However, the wait will continue. With Rousey back, there's already a lot of controversy surrounding her. This is Wrestling Up, and here are the craziest stories about Ronda Rousey. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial, and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. In a huge surprise, Ronda Rousey returned at the Royal Rumble this year and won it, getting ready to main event her second WrestleMania. Usually WWE can be aggressive in pursuing stars, though in the case of Rousey, they were even more keen on signing her. For a long time, Ronda was the biggest name in women's MMA. Before losing her UFC Bantamweight title to Holly Holm, she seemed invincible. WWE started contacting her even before her contract with the UFC was up. This was a time when no one thought Ronda would be leaving the UFC anytime soon, but already WWE was laying the groundwork to sign her. Triple H and Stephanie McMahon were instrumental in the move when it happened, becoming friends with the fighter. Rousey has made a comeback to pro wrestling and has already been ruffling feathers. Apparently, she believes WWE produces fake fights, which are just for fun. Understandably so, fans were outraged by her comments. They were specifically miffed by the fact that Ronda targeted some of her comments to superstars, including Alexa Bliss. Ronda has introduced some of her unique MMA skills in the ring, which hasn't been appreciated by some stars. This includes Bliss, who suffered a concussion thanks to Ronda's MMA moves. Ronda's comments on wrestling being fake spurred Bliss to post a tweet with the video where Ronda gave her a concussion during a live event match. This injury kept Alexa out of the ring for nearly a year. Here's the thing, I want to start off saying I have a lot of respect for Ronda. I do. We get along great. I just said this already and I'll say it again. I don't like when people use the F word, when people say fake, because what we do is not fake. She's accomplished a lot in MMA. She came into our business and everyone was more than accommodating, more than willing to see her succeed. It's kind of that thing where it's like this is a two-person thing. Every match that we have, you're only as good as the person that you're in the ring with. The 5-time women's champion referred to her own case, sharing that she had gone 6 years in her WWE career without a single injury until she got involved in the program with Ronda. For the first time in many years, she ended up sustaining several concussions. So Alexa felt that it was completely unfair for Ronda to speak about wrestling and performers like that, especially since these performers are risking their bodies. Alexa was asked if she and others in the locker room would talk to Ronda about these comments once she returns. Probably. I don't know unless that happens. I have a lot of respect for her. She's done a lot. She did an amazing job in WWE. We respected her business, and we made sure that we catered the matches to her style, and so we didn't disrespect her style. So, you know, just for the people that helped you along the way, like, don't disrespect us and our business. That's all. Given she's won an Olympic medal in judo and been UFC champion, it's plain to see how tough Ronda Rousey is. Mark Henry appeared on Busted Open Radio, where he shared a story about Rousey undergoing treatment for an injury that required an injection of stem cells. Henry, having gone through the same procedure, recounted how painful it was, and that he needed to be put to sleep. Rousey underwent the same procedure, but she was awake without anesthesia. Maybe it's not for me to tell this story, but I'll let the cat out of the bag. I heard because I was talking about having stem cells to help my knee and hip flexor. So I had the surgery when I had my knee done, and they drill into your hip bones and they pull out the marrow. They spin it, create a serum, and inject it wherever you need it to help. I was put under to get that done. When I woke up, I was in as much pain as any surgery or injury I ever had because of the sensitive area of your hips. I heard that Ronda Rousey had these stem cells before, and they didn't use anesthesia to put her under. They drilled into her hips and extracted the stem cells while she was awake. It hurt her, but she was able to do it. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I could not have done that. I woke up in so much pain that I was begging for medicine to put me back to sleep. I said, give me medicine. I don't want to feel this. It hurts. And she did that awake? Golly, that's got to count for being one of the toughest humans alive, not just in wrestling, period. In an interview with a Spanish-language daily newspaper, Hoy, UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion Rousey said she could, under the right circumstances, defeat the heavyweight king, Cain Velasquez. In any given moment, under the right circumstance, I think it is possible. You cannot tell me that it is physically impossible. It is possible that in any given moment that I could beat him. I simply believe in my abilities. Clearly, the Olympic judo bronze medalist does not lack in confidence, but this statement was over the top. It's one hell of an exaggeration considering she's giving up about 100 pounds. It's safe to say that beating Cain is a bit delusional. Maybe Ronda meant that in the hypothetical situation that she was to go up against Cain, she would stand up and fight rather than chicken out. She meant that she would keep fighting and find a way to win. I never say that I'm incapable of beating anybody because I don't believe in putting limits on myself. So, I would have to say, if you're just talking about what's in the realm of possibility of what's possible of who I could beat, well, I could beat 100% of them. You can't tell me there's a 0% chance that I can beat anyone on the planet, so I'm never gonna say that. At the very least, we can appreciate her winning attitude. This has to be one of the most memorable moments in the history of The Ultimate Fighter. The 18th season of the series was legendary. Not only did women get to compete for the first time on the show, they could also serve as coaches. Ronda Rousey, being the inaugural UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion, was supposed to coach against Kat Zingano, who was becoming increasingly popular. She had unexpectedly burst onto the scene earlier that year thanks to her wild rally to finish Miesha Tate, but Kat had not recovered from her injuries and was forced to withdraw from her position coaching against Ronda. Miesha Tate, the former Strikeforce champ, came in to oppose Ronda, her most heated nemesis. But there was one problem. No one bothered telling Ronda about this change. Rousey was not at all happy about it when she learned about the coaching change on set. Fair enough, considering Miesha outcoached her previously on the show. Both winners, Juliana Pena and Chris Holdsworth, were from Team Tate, but Rousey had the last laugh. During the coaches' fight at UFC 168, she beat Miesha. This third-round victory marked her second win over her nemesis. Ronda even refused to shake Miesha's hand after the fight. All in all, her attitude was rough, and Ronda was engulfed by a chorus of boos while walking toward the octagon for the Tate fight. After refusing to shake her hand, the boos intensified. Ronda, once a fan favorite, became the bad guy. According to her, they edited as they pleased, and they needed a villain, and they made me fill that role. Her assertion that UFC tried to make her the villain is inaccurate. It would take some creative editing skills to make it seem like Ronda told Miesha and her coaching team to go fuck themselves when they were supposed to shake hands post-fight. The editing team could not have magically made her scream "fuck you, bitch" and flip off Miesha after she beat her in the coach's challenge. Her entire reaction was childish and rude, and it had nothing to do with editing. Ronda Rousey is a little bit of an odd one, or intense one. On paper, she seems like the perfect role model. It is because of her women are in the UFC. On the flip side, there are things that make her a terrible role model. She has said and done a ton of obnoxious, delusional, and hypocritical things. All of these experiences stain her reputation as a coach on The Ultimate Fighter. She comes off as unstable and erratic. Ronda herself said in her book that it was one of the most embarrassing ordeals in her life. Ronda's mother has been a pillar for her, which is why it was strange that she didn't show up for Ronda's fight against Holly Holm. Her mother has been a constant presence even during her judo days. While they do have their differences, they have a close relationship. When Ronda was addressing posing nude, she shared what her mother told her. Look, whatever pictures you put out there are going to be out there forever. So just think that one day your 12 or 13-year-old son or daughter is going to see those photos. So whatever, I'm not going to show on the beach. I'm not going to show in a magazine. Ronda seemed to take her mother's words into consideration only to pose nude for ESPN's Body Issue later that year. Ronda has also criticized Octagon girls for posing nude in the past. So the fact that she posed nude herself is hypocritical. As her arch-rival Miesha Tate said, it's not okay to talk crap about the ring girls and then get 1% less naked and say it's okay. After her first run in WWE, Ronda's fans turned against her. It's safe to say the former UFC star and Raw Women's Champion hasn't let this go. At the time, she was booked in promos as a babyface against either Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch. She came off as bitter in these promos. In one specific WWE exclusive backstage interview post-Rumble, she was rude with her interviewer, saying she had different priorities and was just focusing on her family. She then said she wasn't fooled by any fans cheering for her. Upon her return, she said things would be different. However, it's safe to assume WWE was not happy with how rude she sounded. According to reports, the company has asked her not to hold a grudge against the fans because she's being booked as a babyface. Maybe the conversation was effective and sparked a change in Ronda. Later, she was found smiling and high-fiving the fans. Many in the audience could not explain her original attitude and promos. Some people believe that she was just being a heel. Others believe she was being herself. Either way, it seems like both parties have made peace with the past. WWE had to convince her that the people were genuinely cheering for her. As a star, she should acknowledge them rather than mean-mugging them. Some believe she was returning to fulfill her contractual obligations and that Ronda was bitter about the same. But according to reports, she is genuinely excited to be back. Ronda was just nervous about looking like a sourpuss and getting overwhelmed by fans again. She's come back with her guard up a little, but with some help from WWE, maybe she'll get past it. Ronda Rousey has been spotlighted for controversial comments in her autobiography. Ronda shared that her ex-boyfriend, whom she refers to as Snappers McCreepy, took naked pictures of her without her knowledge or consent, and then did not allow her to leave his apartment when she confronted him. She wrote, "I punched him in the face with a straight right, then a left hook. He staggered back and fell against the door. She then walked to her car and he jumped into the passenger seat, asking her to give him a chance to explain. She then details, I walked around the car, pulled him by the neck of the hoodie again, dragged him onto the sidewalk and left him writhing there as I sped away." Some compared this incident to that of boxing star Floyd Mayweather, who had to serve 60 days in prison. He pled guilty to battery, domestic violence, and no contest to 2 counts of harassment for hitting the mother of his 3 kids. Ronda came to hear this criticism, which made her angry. She scoffed and said, "I don't have to make every single one of my actions idiot-proof." When asked if the 2 incidents were comparable, she said, "If an idiot can't understand it, it's not my problem." At Media Day for Saturday's UFC 193, she shared, "I was in that situation before when I was in a movie theater and my exit was blocked. People wouldn't let me out. You legally cannot do that. It's considered a self-defense scenario. So if someone is blocking you into an apartment and won't let you leave, you're entitled to defend yourself and find a way out. If you're trying to get into your car and leave and they're grabbing your steering wheel and saying you can't leave, technically you're being kidnapped, and you can defend yourself in any way that is necessary." Before her WWE career, Ronda was in the UFC, and apparently she was ready to do anything that was needed to get ahead. She revealed in an appearance on Jim Rome's Showtime that fighters should have more sex before a fight. It's long believed that engaging in sexual activity before a fight is not advised. Rousey felt that rule does not apply to women. I mean, for girls it raises your testosterone, so I try to have as much sex as possible before a fight actually. Not with like everybody. I don't put out Craigslist ads or anything, but you know, if I got a steady, I'm going to be like, yo, fight time's coming up. That's certainly a different perspective, and maybe that's the secret weapon she had in her arsenal. She would go on to say that for the guys, I think that's a little bit excessive. A lot of the studies I've read about, it's not really substantiated the claim that if you abstain from having sex for that long, it actually raises your testosterone. You actually might start producing less. Rousey sent Paul Heyman a message talking about a prank for the fans. She felt it would be funny if they said women had been set to be a part of the main event of WrestleMania, but that would no longer be the case because she was pregnant, and thus the main event was being changed. And the reason I found out is I sent him this long text basically saying, "Hey Paul, let's do an April Fool's Day joke on April Fool's Day on Raw, saying that I'm pregnant and that the women are no longer the main event of WrestleMania because I'm out. Then at the end of the show we can say April Fools." However, Heyman said it would be a funny prank to play on the fans, but that they could not do it because they were actually going to main event and the announcements were ready and going out. Then he called me back immediately and he said, yeah, great idea and all, but they're going to announce to all major outlets and everything that the women are actually going to main event this Monday, so we can't do your April Fool's Day joke. They're making that official. I was like, oh shoot. So yeah, Paul Heyman told me is the short version of the answer, but he told me to explain why I couldn't do my April Fool's joke and tell everyone I'm pregnant. For a large part of her run in UFC, Rousey was often pictured as being the face of women's MMA, but it was not always the case and she was not helping everyone. Former UFC champion Chris Cyborg talked about Rousey and mentioned how she and Dana White would often bully her. I find it hypocritical of Ronda Rousey to complain about people in Hollywood being critical of her body image, talking about her arms or the extra weight she carries between fights. For the past 5 years, this same Ronda Rousey and Dana White have used the media to bully me, opening the door for other opponents to try the same tactics. Dana White had often insulted Cyborg by saying she looks like a man, and Rousey Rousey has always accused Cyborg of ducking her. The heat between the two fighters was real, but when it came to facing each other in the octagon, that's one fight that did not happen. Ronda would note this when promoting body positivity. If I can represent that body type of women that isn't represented so much in media, then I'd be happy to do that. When women say that going on publications directed at men is somehow demeaning, I don't think that's true. I think that's one really effective way to change the societal standard women are held to. At the same time, Cyborg felt she was the target of bullying from Ronda. In the end, Rousey is far from a black and white character, and there are a lot of controversies surrounding her. And these were the wildest things said about Ronda Rousey. Hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.